thought I would go over a little bit some of the, status, not some of, but like the general status of a project I'm working on. The book that I had started, I was inspired to make recently or put together. It's been in the works now for 5 years, I guess. Um, Pretty much since I started redigging that trench that I was mentioning before, looking into my past and bringing out, old memories and remembering stuff. But this is a compilation of that, I guess, into one massive story. I've titled it, its working title, obviously, it's not official or anything. Um, the Architect's DNA. Oh, I'm dyslexic. The Architect's NDA, a memoir of a simulation. Um, so this is what I had started, I guess about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I've been compiling. I'm at 43,492 words at the moment. Prior to, I guess a week ago, I had put in about 20,000 words and I pulled in another 20 or so from somewhere else, works that I had already done, which I've only kind of recently realized is like perfect for this story. Um, I have arrived at chapter 31. I'm not convinced it's complete. It might be. It's barely like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's 9 paragraphs long, and going by standard book pages, it's about a page and a third, which is, standard book, right? This isn't like printed pieces of paper. If it's a printed piece of paper, it would probably be like 3/4 of a page. But I've been putting it together. I paused. I feel like where I got to was not, it didn't require any more effort. And to give you a concept, chapters 1 through 6 constitute what's considered Act 1, known as the incident or the origin code. Act 2 is called Living in the Split, and I have not yet arrived at Act 3, but 1 through 6 constitutes Act 1, and then 7 through 31 constitutes Act 2. And the perspective, the character, it's one character writing, and it's like it's weird to say it this way, but it's like Inception. So it's a writer writing about writers, writing about writers, writing about writers, writing about writers. So it's like this weird situation. So the incident is the prefix, right? This is like the grounded reality, and then Act 2 is the works of the writer who's writing, and there are 3 key principal works included in this, which prior to about 5 years ago I had started work towards these, and then it was only maybe 4 years ago that the middle of the 2 stories I started putting together. I had a concept for it, and obviously I didn't quite picture it as being a story inside of a story, but it makes sense. And diagnostically, this is a tough one. I have had some pretty wild ideas with this, but it's been going well. I'm a little, I guess, disappointed that I wasn't able to persist with it. But I got to a point where I felt like what had been put on the page was a good stopping point. One of the reasons I wanted to speak today or right now is there's a section in here that's been dwelling on my mind since yesterday in my discussion about meditations, and I was looking for this section yesterday. You'll have to forgive that it took me the day to find it because life, right? But I think it's important to read because it's relevant. Everything's relevant. That's a misnomer, but this particular section I think is interesting because it's semi-based in reality on an experience that I had. So, and you'll have to forgive me if I'm not doing hand gestures today. I have liquid bread, the very strong kind of bread, and then another device. You can use your imagination on that. So, I think I'm just kind of a jump in the pool kind of person, so I'm just going to start reading. Let's see where this goes. If you're also into liquid bread, tink, right? Oh, that was cool. Well, not cool is weird, but tink on the thing. My puppet looks so weird when it's consuming a beverage. Blech. Okay. In every meditation prior, it was Brian's goal to understand the domain which kept him in limbo and reliving the same infinite series of choices. He was drawn only to the paths which led to full nirvana. Perhaps he was greedy, having the oversight vantage point, but his willful exploration of the 12th dimension was not an achievement most would appreciate. His monitoring of the astral body, which represented him beginning to fade, though the subordinate consciousness had not yet returned. A steady stream of flashes from the speck of light nearest place and time in the eternal physical world led both projections back to investigate. Upon reaching the entry zone to the 12th dimension, his oversight consciousness and astral bodies merged and then fell like sand into his physical body. His phone alarm was beeping incessantly. Brian forced his consciousness to reorient and greeted the mid-morning sun with a hopeful good morning. Dismissing the alarm and standing up, he felt a surge of energy tingle across the surface of his skin. Goosebumps rose under every hair, and his mind flashed with the brilliant white essence of insight gained from the oversight meditation. This is... okay, end of the reading real quick. This is not the origin of my good morning phrase, but just as a fun inside joke awareness, I always say good morning, like no matter where I am, no matter what time of day it is. It could be like 8 p.m. and I go to this, Starbucks or whatever. I hate to name drop something here, but doesn't matter where I'm going. It's like 8 o'clock at night, and then I'm like, good morning, and I walk in. It's most effective, of course, if it's like a Starbucks, because then you like confuse the hell out of a barista that never works a night shift or something, and they're like, good morning, and then you see the moment of thinking where they're like, wait a minute, and I enjoy that presence of mind. You drive the ability of others to enter into the present moment and exit the sort of zombie-like robotic nature of the mundane. Most, at least in my experience, have appreciated that. I've never, I think, found anybody that's not gotten at least a little bit of joy out of it. Some people are in a bad mood, so obviously it doesn't land right away, but ooh, this thing is going nuts right now. So that's good morning, and I think from now on I might open my videos with good morning. You may notice some changes. Obviously, I mentioned before that I was going to work on the background audio. This thing's been updated again. Um, I'm thinking maybe I'll add like a word counter or something over here. By the way, all of this is custom programming. I've been vibe coding like there's no tomorrow. I just love it. It's a fun little hobby, I guess, for my kind of brain. Um, oof, I feel like I'm at a rave. Oh, I wish you could see my hands doing that. You can't keep up with me. It's only doing 8 frames, but this should improve soon. Hopefully, right? Fingers crossed. I'm doing all of this on a laptop that's like 8 years old. It's amazing. But, you know, good on me for being a good programmer, I guess, that I can run such an intensive program, and I'm only using 9% of the CPU. I have no idea how much of the GPU is being used, but hopefully I don't kill the laptop. But yeah, so Brian has entered these meditations, and I don't want to spoil anything about the story other than these little readouts that I'm doing, but you shouldn't necessarily get anything about the story from what I'm reading. Not here. And his journey of meditations is something that I have had personal experience with, and different kinds of meditations, of course. Apologies for my neighbors; they love to show off their noise, I guess. I don't know. And I can't remember my first one actually, but I think it was probably a dream. I'm gonna guess it was a dream. I really don't remember, but sometimes meditations and dreams aren't that different. And I had a vision when I was writing the scene for Brian that brought me back to that moment of meditation, the first time I had experienced it. And as I was writing his character, the vision of a plane of existence, for lack of a better word, became apparent. And I almost felt compelled, driven, forced in a way to write the kind of scene that I was writing. And as I was doing it, I was experiencing it at the same time. It was probably one of the most direct connections I've ever had while writing a character, using imagination, designing a scene. It was very much a lucid dream, for lack of a better word, controlling and creating while simultaneously like experiencing the thing that you create. And if you were listening on prior videos, I'm not sure where you've jumped in on my, I guess, series at this point, but I had, actually, I don't even think I mentioned this before, actually. You'd have to read the book, that's where I'm probably getting it from, but I went out for kava one night, and I had, they're called turtles, which is 10, what they call shells or coconuts, which is probably about 10 to 12 ounces of kava. So basically it was about 100 ounces of kava, which is just shy of a gallon. It's like three quarters of a gallon or something, whatever the math is, I don't know, but it's a lot. Like maybe roughly 3 liters, I guess, of kava. And if you've never had kava, obviously read the cautions on it, but it is a worthwhile experience if you don't get to have those sorts of experiences. And often in my own investigations of the beverage, the community around kava I don't even know if they have a name, but uh, hippies maybe. I think they'll appreciate that. But it's such a great community. They're just a bunch of chill people that just want to relax, and um, they're social, which I need as a internal person, right? Obviously, you can potentially tell I'm an internal person. I'm using a puppet to talk to you, right? But I think I was maybe halfway through when, like, through the Turtle of Kava, when I had started this scene. I just read you a particular portion of it, and I wanted to jump into another segment of the same sequence, right? I gotta jump to it now because I just searched the wrong thing here. So it was around these couple paragraphs that I was just reading, and leading into where I'm at. Time passed, and Brian was finally functioning normally after his coffee. Needing to explore his overseer consciousness in more depth than before, he found his way to the park with his favorite tree. Upon arriving, Strintern was patiently waiting for him in his car a few parking spaces away. But unaware who Strintern was, not noticing he's in his car, Brian proceeded to park and find a comfortable spot under his tree and began his meditation. He zoomed away from his body, dropping his astral self off at the intersection of choice and transitioned into the foreman in the 12th dimension. Time slowed in this arena. The astral projection could not move forward, and Brian's oversight could not force it to explore further. Though timeless, this meditation would not relinquish the present moment. A loud thumping noise drove the astral and oversight bodies to merge into just one. Not yet falling into the physical body, Brian observed his physical body being shadowed by the figure of Strintern, who he did not recognize. He allowed himself to exit and awoke. "Good morning," Brian said. So again with the good morning, right? There's a bit of dialogue. It tells a lot about the story. I don't really think we need to get into now. But I want to find... There's one more section, which I don't think is here. Might be a little further back. But I think sharing this idea is important because meditation is, it's, for lack of a better word, sacred, right? But it's per person. Obviously, we all have our own mechanisms, right? Mine sometimes is zoning out and just writing, literally with, pencil and paper, stream of consciousness, just dumping whatever's in there. Sometimes it's doing the same thing but doodling instead of writing. Sometimes it's not doodling. Sometimes it's just mapping or shapes like what this thing's doing or whatever, and it like means something to me, but you gave that to anyone else, not even an AI could figure out what the hell I was drawing. Sometimes I reread my own crap and I'm like, what the hell was I working on? I don't even remember sometimes. But meditation is important because you introspect, and Brian's experience of this particular 12th dimension thing was something that I resonated with significantly because I find myself actually like living and thinking and sort of existing in that modality for very long periods of time. Seems that way. It could probably be hours, sometimes days. I know about a year ago, I had that experience of persistent sort of meditative state for like 2 months. 2 months. Almost just nonstop. I mean, there are definitely little breaks here and there. Yeah, in a way, it was potentially a psychotic break, but call it what you will. Use the literature, but it was interesting because coming out of that, zoning back into reality, tweaking the noms and adjusting back to like it's like landing, in an aircraft, right? Like you land and then like you have to like readjust the pressure, like you go down scuba diving, you come back up, you have to adjust. It's like that almost, but and not physical, it's mental, psychological, depressurizing or maybe repressurizing the body, the psyche, the mind. But you don't forget what it was. You don't forget what it felt like. You don't forget what you experienced. And reality is not what we've measured so far. It is what we've measured so far, but that's not the complete story. As they say, right? Like you cannot understand life in the ocean from a scoop of water from the shoreline. Like you can't understand a whale if you just scoop one cup of water and you're like, I don't see any whales in there. There must not be any. You can't make that conclusion. Come on, that's ridiculous. And I think having been converted mentality-wise from this deductive to the inductive and back and forth and logic and whatnot, I've concluded um, this, margin of error concept, right? Like all things are possible. If at all there's a single percent chance or like a 0.000000000 times a Google 1% chance, like that's 100 to the power of 100, I guess. I think that's a Google. Zeros and then a 1, point that many zeros and then a 1. If that chance exists, the thing that we're talking about must exist. Like that's a thing, like that's a logic thing. You just arrive at the point that you'll probably never see it, you'll probably never even statistically find it or calculate it, but it is out there somewhere. Somebody at some point will find it. Give 10 bajillion monkeys a keyboard and eventually they write Shakespeare, right? Like this is the what do they call it, the Tower of Babel, right? Like this is every possible combination. And there's, for those of you that are curious, there's a website out there, I forget the name of it, but it's like towerofbabel.org or whatever, I don't know, .com. Google it before you just go to the website. But or I guess nowadays the kids are grokking things or whatever, but do that. Find the right website, look it up. You can search or you can like literally go quote unquote into the library. And it's just noise, right? Like shelf 1 is just a bunch of random assortment of letters and numbers and characters and whatever. But when you search a phrase, when you put in a sentence, and don't use a written sentence that you read in a book, okay? That's obvious. It's already been written down. You've seen it somewhere before. It must exist. So find something that doesn't. Make up a word. Make up a sentence. You'll find it in the library. And that's the essence of this chaos. This chaos is exactly that. This is predicted. You can mathematically predict that as long as you knew the conditions of everything that went into it. And that's the sort of important point, is knowing how the foundational principles are structured, how they work, how they are working together. If you watch a flock of birds flying around and then they change directions, it's very similar to what this is doing. Obviously, this is sped up like, 10,000 times faster, and we're dealing with, 200 words instead of 5,000 birds, but it's the same. And there's an interesting aspect in math. I don't remember the correct term for this like middle portion, but there's like an upper portion which is the outer cosmos, right? Like this is the planets and the stars and this solar system. And then there's like the micro, everything that's tiny and small, atoms and cells and chemistry. Like we understand those two sides pretty well. But the stuff in the middle, like people get lost. Like a flock of birds or the weather or how rain falls or whatever. I don't know. like all the stuff in the middle, there's chaos that they say it's unpredictable. I fundamentally disagree. I think, and I do agree, that we don't have the measurement capabilities right now. We don't have the structure or the infrastructure to measure those things. I think that's true. So we cannot measure it. So from that basis, yes, we cannot. But it does exist. It is measurable. And I think it's measurable without prediction. I think prediction is, it's a factor, but it's not the sole arbiter. And I'll get in maybe later videos, not tonight, but later videos discussing how predictions affect things, right? This is the quantum entanglement thing, observer problem. This is the essence of the double slit experiment, right? Like looking at the atom while it's doing what it's doing changes what it's doing. So these fold in together in a huge concept, but I don't think, example, that like the entire east coast of the United States looking out over the Atlantic goes, oh, there's a big weather pattern forming. Let's just all think that it's not a hurricane and then it won't be. Like that, I don't think happens. I'm not saying it cannot. There's a possibility. There's that Google, zeros and then a 1, like that many percent that can happen. And the mechanics of that, I think, are the fascinating part, because how do you justify that? If you had 100 million people all just kind of go ohm or whatever and then wish the weather away, does it go anywhere? Does it do anything? The brain is a physical organ. It is a function of the body. Sorry about the microphone. It is a function of the body doing physical and chemical things, right? Neurons are wiggling around trying to find other neurons to kind of connect to. They are spitting out all kinds of hormones and acids and whatever sugars and things, like they're talking with chemicals, which is a physical response, and there's electrical, which I know that my science community friends are going to hate me for saying this, but electrical is a physical thing. Electricity can push things, it pulls things, right? And this is why I said they're going to hate me, is because all of that falls into electromagnetism, which falls into, right? If you continue the sequence down, suddenly you realize, like, wait a minute, like, these are all connected. So the New Age, like, religion thing about quantum physics, I think stems from the connection of these two ideas, which I was very, very strongly in favor of, like, very much believed in it, like 10, 15 years ago. I've changed my mind since. I don't think it's as direct as is implied by the science as they've said it. Instead, they're related, right? You cannot have correlation and causality, right? Correlation is not the same thing as causation. Most people, I think, I would hope, have heard of that. If you haven't, write that one down and, put that somewhere important, because it's a good phrase to remember. Correlation is not causation. Just because two things happen doesn't mean that one made the other thing happen. And this is important. Thinking may not necessarily cause effects out there. However, thinking can change your own behavior, and your own behavior can affect things out there. Me generating a puppet with all of these little visual tricks and trades and poems that I wrote 10 years ago or whatever, like, this is physical manifestation of the thought process when they occurred back then. They've been brewing. They've been sitting idle for a while. You can think of it like they have kinetic energy, that they have potential energy, things that are waiting to be harvested and sent out into the universe. They technically have already been sent out into the universe simply by exiting them from the thought into a physical form. Whether or not the physical item that is generated from this thought goes anywhere important is irrelevant. That's what's important, is that concept. They talk about therapy. I am talking way too fast. This thing is making rainbows behind me. It's so fast. That's pretty wild. I've never seen it do this, by the way. This is new to me. I'm like in awe right now. Um, there was a thing, I don't know, in school. I learned this anyway. This is what they used to talk about before psychology went like mainstream YouTube level stuff. I was around before all of that shit. Well, pardon the language. I was around before all of that stuff. They told you to write down, things you don't like, things you hate, things that are making you mad, things that are whatever, like disappointments and struggles and whatever. Like they just like vent, right? They told you to vent and write all of your problems down. And then they're like, just crumble it up and throw it away in the trash and forget about it. Because you're throwing it away, right? Like this is a physical representation of exiting something from the mind and getting rid of it. Great, it works for some people, not for my type of person, me. When it doesn't work for me, I don't forget things. In fact, I'll remember that I tried to throw it away and that makes it worse. Go figure. But it works for some. They say burn it. They might say like, blend it in a blender and throw it away or drink it. I don't know what people say anymore, but there's all kinds of crazy, stupid things on the internet these days. Who knows? But this is a physical act, manipulating something. Sorry about the microphone. That you change, you convert an energy which was previously an electrochemical signal in the brain into a physical. And the physical action, even if it's burning it, throwing it away, or whatever, crumpling it up, you're expelling energy. You're putting that energy into an object. The object goes into the trash. It gets burned and put into the air as like water vapor, but you change a little bit of the dynamic around the entity, around the body, around the source of the problem. This is casting a stone into the lake. If you're attuned to that behavior, you can watch the ripples. And I say that because this is like in the perfect spot now to witness this. But if I stop talking and we listen to the audio and watch this, there's a correlation. It's making a liar out of me now because it's way over there. Come back. My viewers need you. Well, I'm the viewer. I rewatch my videos all the time. I need to throw a big word in there. It is going way off to the left side, like way out there. Yeah, come on. Come back. Come back. There you go. Come on. It's almost, oh, I tried to. I need to throw some more words on there. Yeah, there it is. In any case, the irony of the situation, right? I'm talking way more than 3 words per second, which is supposed to be my norm, but there he comes. This is the wave of effect, and I'm using words and not hand motions or anything because in this exchange that we're doing right now, that level of understanding is possible, but I think it's simpler if we just use the medium of exchange that we're using primarily. You're using a very small screen with a very limited range of lights and colors and things, but the words, the noise, is more physically impactful on the environment around, you know. It has longevity because sound waves travel a lot further and a lot easier, so to speak, than light waves. You know, if you hold your speaker up to the wall, somebody on the other side of the wall can hear that. But if you hold their flashlight from the phone up on the wall, the person on the other side of the wall cannot see your flashlight. So sound has a sort of penetrative ability, which is why I rank it a little bit higher. But different tools, different jobs, right? This is a sound job that we're doing, which is why a visual for that I think is more paramount. I'm adding words for the moment, but I'm going to be quiet now so we can watch it settle. Poof. Good morning.